Hello, Jonathan Behnke from the city of San Diego, IT chief. Welcome to our podcast. Really honored to have you here. We have a lot of good questions for you, but before we get into things like cybersecurity, online services, and digital equity, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you end up at the city of San Diego? What really brought you to public service?
Uh, yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. Quite an IT history before getting to the city. I worked in multiple industries: manufacturing, distribution, contract services, oil and gas. So a lot of different industries. Worked in consulting. Have some SAP consulting background, but an opportunity came up about 10 years ago to join the city in their rollout of SAP, and got a chance really to see the public service side of the world and how that worked, and have been here ever since, really in the public sector, and have really enjoyed it.
Right. So in that 10 years, what has been your proudest achievement? I mean, SAP is a tough one, right? I'm familiar with SAP. So bringing SAP and that customer service modules that it has is a very complex task. So what has been your pinnacle of achievement in the past 10 years?
Just looking back, over the past 10 years, the city of San Diego has done so much in the way of expanding digital services, and really worked together as a team, as a city, the executive team, our city department directors, our Department of IT, very dedicated in expanding digital services. And when we look back over the years, so much has been done to expand that to the public, provide those public-facing services, things that people can access 24/7, and really improve that digital experience, and get out of that traditional government paper world that I think people look back on, that government has been in the space of so long.
Well, government is famous for paper, but right now the new reality of most major organizations, whether you're in healthcare, public sector, what have you, is cyber attacks. So what are public agencies supposed to do to protect themselves from cyber attacks, and what could possibly happen? I mean, what is the worst case scenario in such an attack?
Yeah, that has been in the headlines so much lately, and you see the list of public sector entities that have fallen victim to ransomware, certainly in the private sector, new headlines every week. And so we take that very seriously here from the city side. And it's a layered, layers of defense. Really important, that employee training piece. So we require annual training of our 12,000 city employees, cyber awareness training, learn how to recognize what a phishing message looks like. And we do tests that really help remind our employees periodically what types of phishing messages are out there. And
Oh,
working from home. Again, good cyber hygiene, and we tell everybody that security is everybody's business.
right.
Uh, and then partnerships. We partner with the FBI, Homeland Security, information sharing across the region, very important. And working with our vendor partners, there's a large focus, of course, on security across the vendor ecosystem. We work with Cisco, Palo Alto, a lot of the vendor community in information sharing, and then I think the endpoint security, very important. So again, all of those layers, making sure, and then at the end of the day, make sure you've got good backups and good recovery procedures in place, and continuity of services. I think all the things that we are hearing from some of the organizations out there, and their lessons learned from previous attacks.
So sounds like whatever the city would do is what you should do as an individual. Be aware of phishing, right? It's not, you don't have some secret sauce. You do what you should do personally to protect yourself, right?
Right, sure. Don't reuse your banking password out there on social media. Again, some simple steps that people can take. Maybe takes a little longer. I always say security is not about convenience, but
Right.
we can do things efficiently and still be secure.
Right. That cyber discipline is something we can all, I think, subscribe to. It's tough. It's tough, but I get it. The password changes and all that. You don't know this. Don't click on a link. All that stuff. Same thing goes for public agencies, just on a much larger scale, and the potential impact could be much bigger than just an individual losing access to their baby photos. It's a little bit bigger for cities. So I'm glad you're keeping us safe in that role. You mentioned providing more public services, and even before COVID, I was really pleased to see not just San Diego but other cities moving so fast and furious towards providing more digital services, just getting away from that bureaucratic legacy that governments are famous for, and trying to take more and more services online. I mean, really nowadays, if it's not on your app, on your phone, to the next generation, it doesn't exist. You're completely inaccessible. So what are you doing to provide more public access online for services?
Yeah, we've got a couple of apps. We've got an app called Get It Done that has been very popular. Downloaded by over 100,000 people, and that allows people to report potholes, street issues, graffiti, make appointments with our city clerk's office to get a passport. So really a lot of resources in there for San Diegans, and provides reports on the status of any issues that they're reporting. So I think that's been a great tool. Our water customers have a tool called My Water Easy that allows them to view their bills, pay their bills. So again, really trying to make it as easy as possible to do business with the city and get services. And even during the pandemic, our city departments were really so committed to increasing that digital experience and make it just easier to work with the city. Our development services department created online permitting for pretty much every use case, so people can access those permitting processes online. Even building inspections. They started doing virtual building inspections through Google Meet. So instead of an inspector showing up on site at between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., they would really be able to make those specific appointments online and get some of the building inspections done. So again, I think thinking outside the box and finding new ways to provide those government services, and just make it easier for the public
Right.
when they're interacting with the
Thank
city.
you. No, that's a good point. I mean, if doctors can make telehealth appointments, building inspectors can make virtual inspections. I mean, I think that's exactly the direction a big city like San Diego should go. I do have one question before we turn into digital equity. Um, a city the size of San Diego has economies of scale, has a big budget. They can afford to do a lot more than the smaller cities in the region. Do you work with the smaller cities in the region on any of this, either cybersecurity or online services, sharing any apps? Is that possible?
It is. We've actually talked with some of the regional, smaller cities. For instance, the Get It Done app. Some of them approached us and said, "Hey, where do we go to get that app?" And actually, it's something the city created, but we actually just put together a partnership, and we're putting that up for sale. And again, a smaller community could be something very affordable, but we also share information with the communities. People might use the Get It Done app and be standing in Chula Vista at the time.
Right.
So we refer those things over to the neighboring cities. And then even on the security side, we've had lots of opportunities to talk with some of the other regional cities here, and again, share information and working on some additional collaboration in that space that we hope to have spun up maybe next year.
Wow. That's nice. I think that's what the public expects. They expect public agencies to work together. I mean, I know we're different jurisdictions, obviously, and different budgets and priorities, but uh, as a member of the public, sometimes there isn't a border when you cross one city to another, right? It's the same street, just suddenly now you're in a different city, and people don't always know these political boundaries. So to hear that public agencies are working together to help the public, whether it's in their turf or not, I think it's a very good message to the community. Um, Now, let me turn to the digital divide, my favorite topic. I've been invested in this for a while now, really interested to see what other cities are doing, how they're doing it. Tell us how the city is prioritizing the digital divide. I know you have a presentation, so I'm going to turn the helm over to you so you can walk us through what the digital divide is and what the city is doing to address it.
Yes, and the digital divide really has been, more of a focus during the pandemic. Certainly, that situation just became worse for those who weren't connected. And in San Diego, we looked at census data, which told us that 53,000 households lack broadband internet service. So that's really a stunning number. But when we look at the big picture, broadband won't alone solve the issues that are out there. People still need access to devices, and in addition to the broadband access, digital literacy, they need to know how to use the devices, and that's been a challenge. And then an environment that's conducive to learning or work. So we saw evidence of students standing outside a building that had public Wi-Fi available, trying to do homework on their phone. And again, that's not an ideal situation, but just framing why it's so critical. Think about those e-government services that we just talked about. Civic engagement, our city council meetings are, and public commissions, boards and commissions are online meetings. And so again, that's another way for the public to participate in those meetings. And then telehealth, we were just talking about that, banking, safety information, school. If you look at how many students were doing online school, and then the same thing with work, not only applying for work, but being part of that remote workforce as a whole. And business, not too many people can start a business these days without an online presence. And then, of course, the social connections with family, friends, and community. So all really sort of foundational needs today for someone. And then looking at the big picture, as we approach digital equity, we want to build an ecosystem that's sustainable. We can't just, spin up some services without really supporting those four things that I talked about. So trying to look at that big picture. So in San Diego, a year ago, about this time, the city council allocated $500,000 for internet access for low-income communities, and our independent budget analysts made some recommendations to really get us started in providing those services. So developing public Wi-Fi at city facilities like libraries and parks in low-income communities, but then also partnerships that might be needed with internet service providers and nonprofits here who already are doing great work. So leveraging those partnerships, and then creating an internal team from the city. So we really have that representation from appropriate city departments to lead those efforts. So we created a digital equity working group, and that was represented by the mayor's office, our city council offices, our independent budget analyst, but then economic development, our public library, who really has been a leader the last few years in bridging the digital divide, and our Parks and Rec department, some great programs there, the Department of IT, and our Performance and Analytics department helping us with some surveys, communications department. But that logo you see there, the program was branded SD Access for All.
Nice.
And we worked with the San Diego Futures Foundation, who is a nonprofit in San Diego here, been around since I think 1999. And the city's donating end-of-life computers. So 2,200 computers we donated for refurbishment, and the Futures Foundation has a licensing deal with Microsoft. So they're adding new value to those computers, getting them out to the community. So again, addressing that device issue. And then our public libraries, we set up outdoor computer labs at public libraries. During the pandemic, people could not get inside the libraries. And so added shade canopies, chairs, computers to check out, or bring, people could bring their own device. And also just get connected. And then at 30 of the libraries as a whole, outdoor internet is available, and there are spaces for the public. And then our park and rec centers as well. We've got 24 locations connected there. The San Diego Parks Foundation has done a great job. They're actually funding some additional locations. So we expect to have about 60 in all. And our GIS team did a wonderful job in mapping this out for us. So as we looked at where the low-income communities are and where we have services available, we were able to really match that up. And then some additional things, we put 900 cellular hotspots at our libraries for patrons to check out and take home, get their homes connected, working with the San Diego Unified School District on a partnership to host Wi-Fi from school buildings. And then on that map you see there, those purplish squares, we added 255 street hotspots in a partnership with Cox to again expand options for neighborhoods, and some additional Wi-Fi in the San Diego Promise Zone. And then really focusing on digital literacy, we partnered with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, and we're doing training with our libraries, parks, and some of the community-based organizations, sort of a trainer model, but again, help the community with some of those digital home connectivity device questions and help them navigate that space. And then community outreach, we've got all these services stood up, but how do we make sure we're reaching that target community? How do we connect to a community that's not connected? And so we partnered with Pillars of the Community, and they're doing a couple of things. Number one, they're getting the word out in the neighborhoods about these resources, but even more important, the federal emergency broadband benefit was announced a month or so ago, and they're helping us get our neighborhoods enrolled in the emergency broadband benefit. So if there wasn't awareness, they're going around with tablets and really assisting the community in getting enrolled in that emergency broadband benefit, which really it ultimately means no cost to get their households connected. And then we also did a communications campaign. You'll see these postcards at our libraries and parks, really just directing people to a QR code and a website we've stood up, and telling them how they can get connected, some of the partnerships available. So really one-stop shopping. When people go to our website and can get additional information, and the website launch was in April. And again, a lot of great resources for the community to get connected. And we've got some big ideas about what we'll do in the next fiscal year, really to number one, sustain those initiatives, but number two, how can we supplement those and add more to the community? We're doing some surveys of the community as part of that community outreach, and that'll really help us refine some of those things and really hopefully hit the priority that the community provides in their feedback.
Right. Wow. That's a lot. And that's a lot of good stuff. You know, what I like about this, government is not perfect. Technology is not perfect. But when you integrate government and technology, the public benefits. Because I think the two sectors complete each other in a way that you just can't. Just like some of the integration and partnerships you mentioned, in order to improve services by partnering with NGOs, by partnering with the tech companies. That's new. That's kind of tech thinking in government. Government doesn't always like to color outside the box, right? It's just not San Diego. I'm not, as a former city staff, I'm not criticizing San Diego, but government often likes to kind of keep things orderly and in a nice black and white box. And we just don't live in that kind of world anymore. We need to be kind of nimble and be able to quickly adapt. And everything I saw from your digital equity presentation seems like the city's doing that. And as one of the top 10 cities in the country, in many ways, where San Diego goes, others will follow. So you're blazing a little trail here.
Yeah, we've been excited about the work. And again, with the constraints that the pandemic provided, when we looked at it a year ago and said, what can we do? And we said, well, right now we can do something outdoors because we can't bring people in buildings, but how can we still provide those benefits to the community? And again, I think, planning these, we're talking with SANDAG, the San Diego Association of Governments, really looking at digital equity as a region and what are our counterparts in the region doing and how can we all work together to build on all these initiatives. So I think it's a great region wide discussion. And again, the tech vendors are really on board with, attacking the digital equity issue as well. So I think we've got great momentum and really, people motivated across the board to continue the work.
Right. Well, I am motivated. I'm so glad that you're in that role, Jonathan. I'm so glad the city is working with the region and blazing a trail. And I think ultimately everything I've always wanted to advance is good government and good public service. And I think this is the kind of the end. Not only is technology benefiting by helping a client like the public sector, but government is benefiting from, as you say, the vendors and the technology they bring. Ultimately, I just like to see healthier communities, better communities, more integrated communities where everybody has the same opportunity, regardless of where you are. That's really the essence of public service. And I think you guys are nailing it pretty good. So Jonathan, any final thoughts for our group?
No, continue to be excited in the public sector after almost 10 years in the public sector. Again, it's a really fun ride, and again, making an impact on the community has really been the great motivation. So looking forward to keeping the work going.
Well, you are making an impact. Thank you so much for joining us, Jonathan. Please come back again soon.
Thanks.